Well, hey man, I'm looking forward to getting into the music. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd, just send a small reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you've had a wonderful career, so Songs for Lost Friends, your career, I'm looking forward to getting into it. And before we do that, I want to
Yeah,
know this. 5
yeah,
years ago, this pandemic was
yeah,
absolutely changing the world. How did you make
absolutely.
it through the pandemic, and how has it changed the way that you do things now?
Okay. Yeah, well, actually, I was doing all right during the pandemic, and which was due to the fact that the concert, which is also resulted in Song for Lost Friends, was part of a concert series which was called During the Army Now. And that was part of an even bigger project, which was celebrating 75 years of liberation from the Netherlands. And because this was a really huge project, and I was allowed to continue the series streaming. So I wasn't really heavily inflicted as many other colleagues were. But yeah, of course, it changed a lot, the pandemic. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna beat around the bush about that.
Yeah, it was quite a thing. So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about this album. What was kind of the artistic vision? Kind of give me kind of an idea of how you went into this and how good it feels that it's out and it's going.
Yeah, well, it was actually we did about a concert series of 9 to 10 live concerts, and the name of the series was "You're in the Army Now," and the series was actually a tribute to American jazz musicians that started their career in the U.S. Army, which is an amazing amount of musicians. There's Chet Baker, Coltrane, and this one was dedicated to Clark Terry, this specific concert. And yeah, and I mean, I just asked Ack, who was the guest player, like, okay, what do you want to do for this concert? And we decided we would play, a couple of his signature tunes that he always played on every gig, like "The Touch of Your Lips" and plus a few of his originals. And we do a few standards that were really out from the Clark Terry book, the Ellington Repertoire, Take the A Train, Sea Jam Blues. So in the end, it was kind of a mix of those two influences.
So talk to me a little bit about what you're hoping the listener gets from this album. What's your hope?
Well, I'm just hoping that people really get the feel from this album. It's like really melodic. It's really less is more, right? And it's really a kind of legacy vibe, in the sense that Ak was paying a tribute to his lost friends. That's why it's called Song for Lost Friends, which were Clark Terry and also the guy who wrote Cantor Number One, Kenny Wheeler, and plus a bunch of and his brother he used to be an arranger, and so it was really a tribute kind of thing. And I think that because it was live, I hope people get the live vibe of what we did.
So take me back to your beginnings. How did you get into the music? How did jazz become your world? How did all this start and evolve into who you are?
Well, I started listening to jazz when I was, I guess, around 15 or 16, because my dad used to have a jazz collection, and jazz, bossa nova. He was listening to Stan Getz, Chet Baker, stuff like that. And I started listening at that age already to Bill Evans and Keith Jarrett, and it just completely captured me. Just listening to the music, because it was so intense. I experienced so intensively the depth of the music. So I was kind of hooked on it from the beginning. And then, well, which was also an influence from my father, I went to business school first. So I have a bachelor in economics because my father wanted me to have a proper job. And in the end, it wasn't that a bad decision. And after that, I went to the conservatory. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
So talk to me a little about the first live jazz show you saw that blew you away, or the first show that you felt like you wanted to be up there doing that.
The first show. Well, there were actually a number of Dutch big bands. One of them was called the Sky Masters. It was, and they also did a tour in the United States, if I'm not mistaken. And they were like the house band of the radio, of the Dutch radio. And they had, a whole array of guests parading in every week. Like Kenny Napper was playing with them, and a whole bunch of Stan Getz played with them, and it was very intense for me to listen to them at a young age, and yeah, it was interesting. Yeah.
So, how much of getting a business degree has helped you in your career as a musician? Are you thankful that you did that? Has it been a beneficial kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the thing is that, it makes you think differently in a more very structured a linear way about how to achieve things, and like it's like left brain right brain hemisphere, right? And well, of course, the music is very creative and intuitive level, and that's great, but there's a business side to it too. And what it helped me, the whole business, my business education, to think along business lines. So what really shaped me is fundraising, which I'm doing for my own projects, and I'm starting to do it for other people. And because if you can raise your own funds, then you're independent of what's happening in the market, because you're always kind of under the influence of what gatekeepers think, or what's the taste what's the taste of the day, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it really helped me shaping my own also my own business and my own foundation. Yeah.
So, what is it that gets you up every day to create this music? What is it that gives you the itch to evolve as a musician every day?
um well, it's just the kick I get out of making music and coming up with new ideas, and trying to communicate them with other people. And yeah, that's and but some days I'm primarily working on concepts, because I like to work. Yeah, I like to work my new albums that are not this one, but that's coming out right now. It's much more from a conceptual frame of thought, and then the music becomes a part of an even bigger of an even bigger thing. So yeah, I like to think along all those lines, conceptually, musically, and also keeping my chops up, and yeah, teaching. Yeah, I like to do a lot of things.
So let me ask you this. Coming from the dream and mind of a musician, you go in to this
Hmm.
world with this idea of how it's going to happen and
Yeah,
wanting to be a musician, and then you have the actual reality of getting into this business and being a
yeah.
musician. What's the difference between the dream and the reality for you?
That's a good question. Well, it can be tough, being a musician, because you're in this big place where there's tons of other musicians, and relatively little work, right? For if you're looking at jazz. Hey, by the way, do the birds bother you? Are they hearable or?
I love birds. I don't hear them, but if I did, it would be fine.
Okay, okay, yeah. Well, I'm into birds.
Yeah.
Oh, you know that? Yeah, of course. I mean, it's tough, and you want if you want to make a living, and you want to have at least some degree of comfort in your living. I mean, that's a choice too. There's also musicians that don't mind living in a worn out camper van, and just being into the music one the whole day. But I don't know. I kind of made a choice to do less, but more me and more quality. And for me, that's really the thing. And I mean, there have been periods that I was doing a lot of gigging, doing a lot of shows, and I was playing this small big band. It was called the Young Sinatras. We were playing Sinatra repertoire, and then we added our own originals, etc., etc. And then that, got cut off, and then I was suddenly out of work. So, you really have to cope with that kind of situations. That there's a time your agenda might be brim full, and next year it's completely empty, and sometimes that's tough. Yeah, definitely.
So let's stay in this dreamy state here. what was the stage that or the venue that you always wanted to play at and you finally did and you were like, wow, this is amazing.
There's several venues that, yeah, I mean, I played, let me see, I played a lot of venues with, for instance, because I what I enjoyed, for instance, was playing small festivals in south of Europe, in like Italy and Spain, that kind of thing. Because I really like the personal treatment they give you there. You know, they come, you go play there. I played a festival with Lucy Woodward, the singer. And we went to, I thought it was Sardinia. It was a really crazy gig because, you know, we had to make an emergency landing. But and we got there like 30 minutes before the gig. But when we got there, we got all the people were there and they were treating us so nicely when they had made their homemade cheeses and wines and everything like that. And you know, don't care so much about, you know, the name or the importance of the venue, but I care about the personal, you know, it's really personal, the music, if you think of it. And people, if people go out and you know they pay money or they and they want to listen to your show, and other people, you know, put energy in organizing it. That's what I really respect a lot because I know how much work it is because I did it myself, you know?
So let me ask you this.
Yeah,
When you started out and you were around musicians that had a lot of years on you, veterans,
yeah,
luminaries, what
yeah.
did you learn from them that you in turn now try to teach younger players that you get on the bandstand with?
All right. I think if we narrow it down to, for instance, Ack, who was the featured artist on Song for Lost Friends. I mean, what I learned from him is that he always, you know, he never tried to impress anybody, and you know, he just he if he felt like playing two notes or three notes, then he would just go for that, you know. And even if there was other people that played a million notes, but he didn't care. And I think you have to develop this kind of attitude that you really, you know, you're kind of immune to what do you expect other people might say or might do or might react, something like that. I think that's really, if yeah, it boils down to authenticity and not really being bothered a lot with opinions of others, with what other people are doing, with the market, etc., etc. It's that's not easy either because you know we're getting in all this stuff on our feed on social media, and you know some people are doing quite well, which is good for them. But yeah, it's important that you don't let yourself influence by that, I think.
So how do you view your evolution as a musician from the beginning to now? With each successive project, with all of your shows, are you cognizant of wanting to evolve to a different level and to really kind of solidify? How does that work for you?
Oh yeah, well, I started out, you know, mainly the conservatory I went to was mainly a bebop conservatory. You know, they had Barry Harris coming over every year, and you know he's quite influential in that style. So I really took a deep dive into that bebop, hard bop, etc., etc. So I came from this really traditional way of playing. Although I was at the same time, I was already, you know, listening to a lot of other music like tango, and I was playing salsa bands and Brazilian music and stuff like that. But I always had a very broad interest in other styles of music. Um, if you yeah, I was coming out of this more traditional style of playing, but I was also always composing, which is a very important aspect of making music for me because it really allows you to put your own signature on the music that you're making. And for the new project that I'm working on right now, I'm really into playing only original music. And this is what I initiated like a couple of years ago when I decided, okay, I'm gonna focus on producing my own music. And so I did a record a couple of years ago with Jeroen Vierdag, Dutch bass player, and with Jorge Rossi. And that's going to be remixed now into Dolby Atmos and probably released next year, which is complete a concept album with all my original compositions, which still have the influence from the standards and the soul and the gospel and the blues. And I mean, really the stuff I like, you know, they're still in my music. but it has taken a different direction. I'm putting more of myself now in the music. I think that's the important thing. Yeah.
So why do you love this music that we call jazz?
Oh man, I think it has to do a lot of with roots. It has to do with the roots and groove. I mean, it has African roots, this music that we love, and I think that's very powerful. And I like those roots if I hear them in jazz. I like those roots if I hear them in Brazilian music or salsa. And I don't know, it's something I don't know. It has to do with soul and spirit, and a lot of things that are hard to put words on. um, and it has to do with being able to express yourself through this music, which is a unique thing, and which is, for instance, classical music. It all boils down into interpretation, right? The musicals are all written out, and just have to interpret a certain way, which is also hard. But I think the unique thing about jazz is that, if you practice hard enough, then you have enough vocabulary to put your soul in.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I love, the groove and the soul.
So the one thing during the pandemic was that there was a lot of musicians that were fleeing big cities.
Yeah.
There was this fear that kids weren't going to go to college, but it seems like the community is stronger than ever. What's your bead where you're at with how strong the jazz community is in 2025?
Oh, wow, that's a hard one. I think, from where I'm at, I see a lot of things happening, and there's a huge amount of content that's being delivered to the streaming platforms every day, and I think it's like 100,000 tunes, if I understand it well. And I mean, I think there's just simply. I try to listen a lot on Spotify to the Discovery tracks, and I'm hearing, yeah, it's hard to put um, a label on it, but I think there's new bands emerging like Snarky Puppy, who are setting like a new standard in jazz, and there's a lot of spin-offs from that development, and but no, jazz hasn't died, and maybe the best is yet to come. Who knows?
So let me ask you this. If you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one live jazz show, where would you go? What are you going to see?
Oh man, it's like a terrible question. I don't know. Well, maybe just from a very pianistic kind of view, I would love to see Bill Evans live at the Village Vanguard.
Yeah.
I think it's legendary, epic, and
Yeah.
and and swinging, innovative. Yeah. I mean, tomorrow I'll say a different thing. Okay.
Yeah. No, I would join you for that. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends,
Yeah.
fans, everyone that plays with you on the bandstand that knows you, but
Mhm.
you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I don't know. I just, I'm a bird with a lot of colored feathers. I think multicolored feathers. I mean, who do I think I am? I try to evolve every day according to my own taste and my own preferences, and it's like a continuing process of being influenced and influencing other people. But I think what I learned in a number of years that I'm active on the scene is really to be true to what I want to do. And if that really means that I have to withdraw myself for a couple of years just to work on my tunes and to get deeper down into producing my own stuff, that's what I do, and that's also what I've been doing the last couple of years. I'm mainly working with my producer on my album, remixing it and working on new tunes, because it's what I do is actually kind of elaborate, because I'm mixing different styles, and I'm having a very specific image of what I want to do, not only musically but also stylistically and conceptually. So it's a big thing.
Absolutely. So, Song for Lost Friends, if anyone wants to catch you live, pick up a copy, any of your previous work, any of the good business, where do they go?
Well, they go to my website, edgarvanasselt.com. or they can go to bandcamp.com/Edgar van Asselt. And as I emailed you, I've got for the listeners of Neon Jazz, I've got a special discount code if they want to purchase the Bandcamp collector's item, which is 3 bonus tracks on high definition audio and video, and they get a 35% discount. So, I think that's a pretty good deal.
Absolutely it is. I will put all of that in the show notes. Edgar, it's so great to meet you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, well, it's likewise. Thank you for putting on the show, because we need publicity, we need exposure, and we need people like you to put on shows like this. So thanks a million.
I love you guys. I'm honored to do it.
Jazz fans, Joe Domino of Neon Jazz here. Proud to let you know about the triumphant return of the Kansas City Blues and Jazz Festival to Legends Field at the home of the KC Monarchs with a stellar lineup. Grammy-winning Stanley Clarke, Carl Denson's Tiny Universe, jazz master Bill Frisell, and KC luminaries Jackie Myers and Brody Buster. Tickets and more for this electrifying 2-day event is found at monarchsbaseball.com, then click on special events. This October 3rd and 4th, join us as we bring magic and music back to Kansas City.